write more Great Ace Attorney Chronicles Case 3. Almost immediately starting the trial. We still have a little bit of investigation to do. I think just finishing up this one location. I'm gonna turn this down just a smidgen. Hold on. So we left off in the Wax Museum, which I just now noticed. They have a sign that says, "Statues available, please inquire." Who's buying a statue? Who is like, I want a wax statue of a murderer. For personal reasons. For my bedroom. For a social experiment. I'm gonna prank someone. So I guess just for old time's sake, a quick recap. There was an we're at the the Crystal Tower, the Great Exhibition. There was a teleportation invention, and when they went to demonstrate it, it blew up, apparently killing the person involved. The person who died is apparently the head of a criminal mastermind who, a month ago was acquitted on charges of something or other, something criminal, in court with the Reaper, and people believe that the reason he died in the explosion is because of the curse of the Reaper, that, you know, if you're tried by him and you get off, you're still going to die. And Count von Zeeks was attacked, or Baron, Barak, it's his name, not his title, was attacked in the street yesterday by that guy's underlings because they believe that he murdered the guy. But the person who's actually being tried for the murder is the scientist who created and was running and operating the machine. That for some reason there's a suspicion that he killed the guy on purpose, even though the man was actually the sole benefactor of the project, that he had approached him a year ago and funded his experiments to create this teleportation machine. We are, for some reason, at Madame Tussauds, or what is it? It's something else in this world. Two shillings? 2 spells. Madame Two Spells. It may turn out that a wax dummy was used, or it may turn out that this is going to be a red herring that we're going to wind up disproving. But it is curious that we weren't able to investigate the crime scene, and it seems as though the accused is saying, "Oh, but at least the invention did work because his corpse wound up being teleported, over to the destination." We suspect, of course, or I suspect, from meta standpoint, that the invention does not actually work, and that there will be some other thing that has happened, like it really was maybe a wax double or something inside the machine, and the real guy was already dead up at the destination. Excuse me. So, the Great Detective. That's him. What's the situation with that? Ah, my temporary waxwork model. He approached me some days ago, you see, with a business proposal. Oh, what sort of proposal? My dear madame, what these sparse exhibits need is the addition of a world-famous great detective. Or words to that effect. Ha. Naturally, I am well aware that Mr. Sholmes is widely known in London as a talented detective. It's great detective, actually. He's very specific about it. Yes, the creme de la creme. So I was keen to come to some arrangement with him, of course. But sadly, we were unable to agree terms. Let me guess, someone wanted to charge an exorbitant price for his services. For a mere £500, I will dive into your cauldron of wax this very moment. Or words to that effect. Mr. Sholmes might have overdone it slightly with the sales pitch. Regrettably, the museum has a shortage of funds at the moment due to unforeseen circumstances. So we came to the current arrangement instead. Surely he doesn't really need to do what he's doing, though, does he? I would think not, but he was very insistent. I have a 50-shilling problem that must be resolved by the morning. Or words to that effect. It's the pawnbroker, that's what it is. He must have something to redeem. Is the consulting detective work not going so well? 50 shillings. It's almost a mile. I wonder, could I ask you something? Bien sûr. I'm just curious, is anything going on in the museum at the moment? Some kind of incident, perhaps? Shenaniganery? Whoever suggested such a thing to you? Oh, well, it was your temporary waxwork over there who mentioned it to me over... Oh, he's disappeared. A wax model is a work of art, not some tawdry object for trade. Ah. Oh, nope, that was him. There you are. Leaving the exhibit again when you should be working? Do you wish to be melted down? Oh no, she's going to make you into a gold statue by casting gold mirror. Or whatever it was. My dear Madame Tuspels, save your reprimands. There are more pressing concerns. The wax can wait. It's our ideas about your current problem we must throw into the melting pot instead. Personally, I would advise you not to involve the police. Why ever not? She's turned as white as a sheet. Because you have at your disposal a great detective whose services you may employ for a mere 50 shillings. Or 1,000 pence, as we say. Though please be aware that I prefer no insist upon payment in advance. Very well. Let us see if the great detective is able to live up to his name, shall we? Before I engage my analytical processes, I must ask you to clarify something. What, pray, is behind the curtain? That is the Tuspels special exhibit. There is an extra charge to see it. Ah, the special exhibit in the House of Horrors. It must depict a special killer then, I presume. Would you be so kind as to draw back the curtain, I wonder? Absolument non. There is nothing amiss behind there. Nothing amiss, madame. What about the arm protruding ominously from under the curtain? Ah! I strongly encourage you to allow me to see what lies beyond before the situation worsens. Yes, very well. I will draw back the curtains, but only a soup can. No, a soufflon? I don't know. French, I can neither do the accent nor read the language. Never took any kind of French. No familiarity. I must confess, I peeked behind the curtain earlier. The Tuspels special exhibit is a very bleak graveyard scene indeed. And yet, somewhat surprisingly, the waxwork killer one would expect is nowhere to be seen. What does strike one, however, is the portly gentleman lying peacefully on his back on the floor. Well, then perhaps, Mr. Sholmes, that man on the floor is the ruthless killer himself. I'm afraid not, my dear fellow. He's a perfectly ordinary London gentleman. Not even a waxwork, in fact. What? As skillfully made as these waxworks are, they are always distinguishable from real humans. So, allow me to present my two conclusions. The first is that a sizable business transaction has been taking place in the special exhibit. Why would you say that? And the second is that the aforementioned transaction is linked to a serious crime. Ah! She looks as pale as candle wax. I don't understand. So, Madame Tuspels, as you've agreed to my fee, you shall now have the pleasure of seeing this famously great detective and temporary exhibit at work. To begin with, we must ask ourselves, what exactly is afoot here in this museum? The answer is revealed by the bundle of banknotes protruding so helpfully from your bag. In my estimation, some £200. That is all my own money. So what does this large sum of money reveal? Not as much as the involuntary glance you cast, it would seem, Madame Tuspels. Yes, the answer lies where your eyes now fall. The significance of the £200 is revealed by that public notice. Waxwork for sale. Your business has hit hard times, it would seem. In short, you sold the infamous killer, the centerpiece of your special exhibit, for the sum of £200. None! Now, let us explore the next curiosity with which we are presented. Who is the portly gentleman stretched out so peacefully on the floor? It would appear the man has suffered a severe shock, the cause of which is clearly known to you. Oh no, that was her. Unfortunately, madame, keeping secrets does not appear to be your forte. What dealt the man such a shocking blow was, of course, the £200. It would appear that you twisted this gentleman around your little finger most effectively. What are you suggesting? He rashly agreed to purchase the waxwork for the sum of £200. Only when he came to hand the money over did it occur to him what an extortionate amount he was paying. But the money was no longer in his hands. And the result, the scene we see before us. He collapsed in shock. Yes, the killer in this special exhibit fetched a killer price. We can only pray that the gentleman's dreams are not plagued with regret. Conclusion, no regrets. The question that arises then is what has become of the waxwork that changed hands? Let us consider that problem for a moment. You cannot possibly... What immediately strikes me about this conundrum is the young man standing over there. Who is this fellow? To find the answer, we need only observe his neckerchief, such as is worn by policemen as a secret sign to fellow members of the force that a crime is being perpetrated. Yes, this young man is an undercover policeman currently investigating this museum. I know him well, in fact. It's Sergeant John Clay. What are you talking about? The man's quite a celebrity. He received triple accolades at last year's policing awards. Oh, did they give him the trophy that has the sword, the broken halberd, and the broken shield on it? Next, we turn our attention to the old man sat before him with the particularly unsightly visage. I've been watching closely, and he hasn't moved a muscle. Almost, in fact, as if he were a waxwork. But you... Your reaction only confirms my suspicions, madame. I noticed it at once, of course. Observe. The telltale sign that instantly proves whether or not this old man is a waxwork is the obvious price tag. Threepence! A tragically low price, you might say. Though perhaps the going rate for aging... This is what happens when I stream 2 days in a row. Though perhaps the going rate for aging waxworks riddled with cracks. And yet you sold it to the portal gentleman for an exorbitant £200. The sort of plucky behavior that's sure to attract the attention of Scotland Yard. Isn't that so, madame? I do not... Yes. The waxwork you sold has already been seized by the police and remains in their custody as we speak. The old man must be reunited with his grave in a special exhibit, and not a moment too soon. Thus concludes Sherlock Holmes' great deduction of this horrifying puzzle. I like her. Hello, Serp. I see I've stunned you all into silence. You have, Hurley. You have. No, I haven't caught another run yet. And you've obviously upset this young lady in the process. Her cauldron looks awfully hot. If I could just bring up 1 point, Mr. Sholmes. Ah, the notorious Naruhodo 1 point. I'm all ears, my dear fellow. According to your deduction, then, the special exhibit featured this old policeman. So that would mean that he's the particularly ruthless murderer, wouldn't it? The killer policeman, Otomo. Sorry? It was a mysterious series of murders that rattled the capital only last year. The police rushed to the scene every time, only to find the culprit had disappeared into the ether. Ah, he attuned to a faraway etherite, I see. And it turned out the culprit was a policeman himself, a senior officer by the name of Ottermole. So you mean that's who the sinister-looking old man there is supposed to be? Indeed. It is a particularly grim face, is it not? Unforgettable, in fact. Yes, I remember that odious countenance only too well. But is £200 a lot of money for a wax model? It would be enough to afford one of the latest steam carriages, if that puts things in perspective. So, it is quite a lot, then. Is there anything else you wish to add before I melt you down? That bubbling wax is looking more and more like a murder weapon. Like, don't do it, lady. I don't want to have to defend you. The smell of all that molten wax is starting to worry me. Mr. Sholmes did more or less just accuse her to her face. So... I'm not good with French accents. I also can't read French. She said some word. Because of course she did. She said some word. And I didn't know how to say it. It looked like soup con, but there was a thing hanging off of the sea. She needs to get her sea trimmed. And then it will be just a normal soup con. I think I might have to call in your assistance here, Iris, if that's all right, to make some minor corrections to the great detective's great deductions. Of course it's all right. We'll soon set things straight. Well, let's get started then, shall we? Before Madame Two-Spells vents her anger. Just what I was waiting to hear, my dear fellow. So, Madame Two-Spells, in accordance with our agreement, you shall now have the pleasure of seeing this famously great detective and temporary exhibit at work. To begin with, we must ask ourselves what exactly is afoot here in this museum. Yeah. But with a thing. I don't even know what it's called, let alone how it makes the word sound different. The thing hanging off the bottom of the sea? The answer is revealed. Soupçon? Okay. The answer is revealed by the bundle of banknotes protruding so helpfully from your bag. In my estimation, some £200. That is all my own money. So, what does this large sum of money reveal? Ah, not as much as the involuntary glance you cast, it would seem, Madame Two-Spells. You do, okay, soupçon. The answer lies with where your eyes now fall. The significance of the £200 is revealed by that public notice. She definitely looked in this direction, it's true. But I'm not sure she'd sell any of her waxworks, even for £200, even though there's a sign on the wall that says waxworks for sale. She must pour her heart and soul into making them, don't you think? Over and above the wax. If it were me, I wouldn't sell them for anything. For that much money, I would. But it sounds like that makes me a bad person. Well, anyway, I wonder if the £200 could have some other significance. Let's follow that furtive glance again and see if there's anything else that could explain it. Well, well, well. What's that note doing pinned on the wall there? Oh yes, let's see. Dear Madame Two-Spells, we've taken the prisoner from this room. The price for his safe return is £200. Have the money ready by noon on 23rd October. What? This is... It's just like the sort of thing that's left behind when someone is kidnapped. Yes, it's a ransom note. Exactly.
Take that!
The significance of the £200 is revealed by that ransom note. Quite so, and we must congratulate these criminals on their inventiveness. Abducting a waxwork. Ugh! £200 is no small ransom fee, yet you clearly intend to pay it. The model in question has special importance, so I put together all the money I have. In summary, then, the £200 you have in your handbag is ransom money. Now, let us explore the next curiosity with which we are presented. Who is the portly gentleman stretched out so peacefully on the floor? It would appear the man has suffered a severe shock, the cause of which is clearly known to you. Ah. Unfortunately, madame, keeping secrets does not appear to be your forte. What dealt the man such a shocking blow was, of course, the £200. So if the waxwork was kidnapped, where did that leave us in terms of who this man is? We could just ask him when he comes around. I think the point of this exercise is to understand the beauty of the deduction process, Iris. Yes, you're right. Hurley's trying so hard. We mustn't let him down. Well, there's little doubt that he suffered a shock. That much seems clear. But in that case, what's Madame Two-Spells trying to hide? Let's have a closer look around. Oh, she has a taser. This is just Madame Two-Spells' right hand, isn't it? Yes, it must be. I can clearly see her left hand after all. Oh, but wait a minute. This is a left hand as well, look. Don't say such creepy things, Iris. And it seems very stiff, too. In fact, it's really hard. You mean it's made of wax? It's kind of funny. She's holding a hand back there.
Take that!
What dealt the man such a shocking blow was, of course, the waxwork hand. Indeed, with a solid waxwork limb, one could deliver a very substantial blow. How could you? The hand protruding from the bottom of your cape, it ought to be a right hand, but closer inspection reveals that it's in fact a left hand. Ah. And somewhat masculine as well. In other words, it does not belong to you, madame. It is the hand of a waxwork model. Kia! In French. Some of the visitors to my museum can be troublesome. They meddle with the exhibits and cause damage. So you mean that arm? Yes, this gentleman saw fit to try to remove it as a souvenir. No small keepsake. Like taking a whole branch of a cherry tree when you go to view the blossoms. I am afraid I had to teach the man a lesson. You confronted the man and tried to take the arm back. And the result? The scene we see before us. He was knocked unconscious. A point we may need to revisit later, but for the time being we have our conclusion. Yes, the killer in the special exhibit has been kidnapped. The question that arises then is what has become of the waxwork that changed hands? Let us consider that problem for a moment. You cannot possibly... What immediately strikes me about this conundrum is the young man standing over there. Who is this fellow? To find the answer, we need only observe his neckerchief. Now, how about we examine his left arm, which is probably missing? According to Mr. Sholmes, the yellow neckerchief is a sign to other policemen that some crime is underway. A way of communicating with his colleagues without revealing his identity, yes. It's a secret that's closely guarded by Scotland Yard that Mr. Sholmes didn't hesitate to give away. Well, uncovering secrets is in any true detective's nature, of course. Right. Anyway, judging from Madame Two-Spell's reaction to Mr. Sholmes' deduction, I think perhaps we might not have identified the man quite correctly. What the? The man has a stub sticking out of his shoulder where his arm should be. Ah, well that settles that then. Right, this isn't a real person at all. His entire arm's been ripped off from the shoulder down. His arm's been... Of course. That ties in with what we just found out.
Take that!
Who is this fellow? To find the answer, we need only observe his shoulder stub. No such boneless human walks this earth. Of that I can assure you. In other words, the man standing here, the young Sergeant John Clay, is in fact, defying all odds, a waxwork model. I seem to remember it was you who concluded he was a real person in the first place, Mr. Sholmes. He's become quite a celebrity in London, being the winner of no less than 3 policing awards last year. I simply had to make a model of the man. Naturally. What other explanation could there be? And it was this detective's arm that was pulled off by the man on the floor in the special exhibit, wasn't it? Next, we turn our attention to the old man sat before him with a particularly unsightly visage. I've been watching him closely, and he hasn't moved a muscle. Almost, in fact, as if he were a waxwork. But you... Your reaction only confirms my suspicions, madame. I noticed it at once, of course. Observe. The telltale sign that instantly proves whether or not this old man is a waxwork is the obvious price tag. A killer policeman called Ottermole, was it? Was he well known? It was all over the papers last year, but I can't say I know what he looks like. It's a very low price, though. Threepence isn't much money. Only enough for a few measly hours of gas in Mr. Garrideb's delightful lodgings, in fact. So this is the special killer taken from the special exhibit, is it? The waxwork that somebody stole from the museum and tried to ransom for £200? Is this crusty old killer policeman Ottermole? Really? Perhaps we should have a good look around again and see if another idea crops up. It's Twitch. Look at this. The old man's tapping his foot like crazy. He seems to be fast asleep, though. He's not tapping his foot consciously, then? So you mean it must be a Twitch? Never mind that. The point is waxworks don't tap their feet. Or Twitch. And look at his arm, too. We've seen a scarf like that somewhere else around here, haven't we? I don't believe it. It's the secret sign that lets other detectives know some criminal activity is underway. Yes, it's a slightly strange choice of outfit if he was trying to go unnoticed. Ah, he must be a detective, disguised as a policeman. Or a detective disguised as a waxwork model policeman. It doesn't look like he's clever enough to think of something like that, though. Perhaps you should try to be a little more polite about him, Iris.
Take that!
The telltale sign that instantly proves whether this is an old man or is a waxwork is the obvious twitch. Even the most realistic waxworks do not exhibit a twitch. In other words, this splendid old man is in fact a genuine member of Scotland Yard. Slight shift in your choice of adjectives, then. And there you have it. Well, Madame Two Spells. Well, what? It was me who contacted the police and demanded that someone come in the first place. He is clearly fatigued. He is sound asleep. But then, what's this tag about showing a price of threepence? No doubt, the price tag of the muffler, which the old Bobby purchased recently at a local market. And I presume you've observed the scarf tied around his arm. Does that not strike you, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes, the secret sign used by detectives to show some criminal activity is currently underway. Of course, because as you know, there has been just such criminal activity happening here, as you deduced from the very beginning, Detective. So, it would seem we finally arrive at the truth. The waxwork of the especially ruthless killer from the special exhibit has been kidnapped. And Scotland Yard are already investigating. But the model's whereabouts remain a mystery. Thus concludes Sherlock Sholmes' great deduction of this horrifying puzzle. Still a mystery. Solved. Identifying that a mystery hasn't been solved yet means that you solved it. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba-da-dum. I just noticed how weird the color of her outfit is, because it has these green these green outlines as if the lights around here were green. Like if her thing was like a blue but with green light shining on it, but the lights here are not green. All sorts of people visit my museum here, men and women, young and old. Sometimes they drop in just for a short time on their way back from the pub. I welcome them all. But if anyone tries to damage my exhibits, I do not take it lightly. Blind, good evening. How are you? Anyway. Yeah, twirl. What are you so happy for? We didn't solve anything. Your great deduction was even more enchanting than I had been led to believe. It was a pleasure, my dear madame. I am gratified that you enjoyed the spectacle. And as for your rough customer, I've no doubt he'll regain consciousness shortly and return home. What concerns me more is the waxwork from the special display, if it was indeed genuinely abducted. Yes, tragically it was. Then I would ask you to recount to us the events surrounding the stolen waxwork. In as much detail as possible, if you please. Very well. But after I have told you what I know, I must insist that you return to your work. Wondrous Tales is the worst. I always feel I let them expire so often too, and then I feel really bad. Like I'll have it in my head that okay, make sure before I log out today, even though I'm not gonna get the 3 lines or the 2 lines or whatever, it's like make sure you just grab the last ones, turn it in, and pick up the new one for this week before the reset happens. And then if I miss it, it's okay. Well, that's 2 weeks gone. Because it means that I didn't get anything for that book, and I didn't pick up the previous week's book either, so double wasted. I do it way too often. The talents of a great detective could be put to better use, I feel, but as you wish. Stolen waxwork, hit me. Tell us more about the stolen waxwork, please. It was some days ago now, when I came in here one morning. I immediately noticed that a waxwork was missing from the special exhibit here. It is your most prominent display, so that's why the curtains were closed. And I found the ransom note in its place. The culprit must have broken in during the night and taken it then? So this waxwork that was stolen, it was a model of some horrible criminal, I suppose. Of a particularly horrible criminal, in fact. The killer who left a more profound scar on society than any other, I would say. The Professor. That's a boring name. Not a name I've heard of. So, Mr. Naruhodo, it seems the circle is now complete. Sorry? The Professor case happened at around the time I was born, didn't it? Indeed it did, Iris. 10 years ago. A series of murders that rocked the capital. 10 years ago? Yes, at exactly the time that Baruch von Zieks graduated from university, in fact. What? Surely he's not saying... So the big event that changed Mr. Reaper's life... As you've surmised, it was the Professor case. Who was this Professor, then? Where's Marianne and Gilligan and the skipper, too? It was a series of gruesome murders that had all of London gripped in terror a decade ago. So is this going to be their, like, instead of saying Jack the Ripper, they made up a new guy, or is it going to be completely unrelated to Jack the Ripper? After 5 victims were killed, the man was arrested and put to death. And now he's immortalized here in wax for all Londoners to admire and enjoy. Though, of course, he happens to be absent at present on account of the abduction. But I don't understand. How is all this related to Lord Van Zieks? You must first understand, my dear fellow, why it is that the Professor earned such infamy. Earned, huh? It was due to the victims he chose, some of Whitehall's finest. What do you mean, Hurley? Those murdered by the professor were some of the highest members of the British aristocracy. Alright, so it's not Jack the Ripper. Members of the nobility, even royalty. It sent shockwaves through the country's administration. Members of the... Ah, wait, of course. What Professor Harebrain said. Lord Von Zieks is from a family with noble blood. Oh gosh. It was the fifth victim that led to the professor's arrest. The last of the killer's prey was a young noble by the name of Clint Von Zieks. No! I don't believe it. Von Zieks? I'm sure you can piece together the rest for yourself. In the wake of his older brother's murder, the young Barak pursued a career as a prosecutor, and eventually became the Reaper we know today. I had no idea Lord Van Zieks had such a tragic past. Well, I'm afraid that's all I can say on the matter, for the time being at least. After all, I have work to do. As a waxwork exhibit. I am afraid I shall have to excuse myself as well. Oh yes, of course. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Well, none of the predicted scenarios I've been analyzing involved... Wait, who? No, is this going to be Von Zieks talking? Or... No, oh, no, okay. It's been too long. It really has. I'm delighted to see you, Barak. It's been 10 years. And here we are, meeting in a prison of all places. I can't forgive myself for what happened to Mr. Osman. I just can't. I still can't believe it could happen. Tomorrow, the court will decide. Yes. I have a young Eastern man acting for my defense. He seems reliable enough, though. Yeah, the murdered guy's name is Odie Asman. And I don't get, I mean, it's almost always puns. The only thing that I can figure is that it's supposed to be read as like, oh, die as man, like he died as a man. I don't know. It was an accident. A terrible accident. He assures me he can prove it. Oh, maybe that's it. Odious man? Good thinking. I sat there saying it over and over again. I must warn you. Oh, I know. I've heard already. You're going to be prosecuting, aren't you? Yes. Since I returned to England, I've heard lots of stories. Barak, are you really? What? Never mind. I know that you have my best interests at heart. My friend is on trial. I wouldn't entrust it to anybody else. Of course, I fully understand. Thank you, Barak. Until tomorrow, then. I'll see you in court. It's an odd scene because you never see two people like standing next to each other. You never see conversations in this game that don't involve you, like where the camera is not Phoenix Wright. So it's the two of them, and they're both there in the scene, but talking to each other. So it wasn't like, you know, one person's there and then they fade out and then the other person fades in. So it did feel a little stranger than most conversations. So yeah, that was a good like 45 minutes to get to the trial. So it was good that I didn't try to do it yesterday. I'm usually all right with the... Well, also the puns are usually like, oh, his name is... real name. Like in the stupid Spirit of Justice. Or no, who was the guy that looked like Jesus? What was his name? It was nonsense. It was like friggin' these nuts in your mouth or something. It was awful. I can't believe it's been 6 months since I was last allowed to work in court, and now here I am, back at the Old Bailey again, the old miss. Ah, Mr. Naruhodo. Good morning, Professor Hairbrain. I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense. The atmospheric pressure in here is off the charts. I've never felt anything like it. It's crushing me. I feel it every time I'm here. That gravity causes atmospheric pressure. You can trust me. I'm an earth scientist. I'm a geologist. I'm a meteorologist. But this is Britain's highest court. But are you telling me it's fitted with some kind of device that can actually control air pressure? I think it's probably all in the mind. Ah, yes. Well, you won't let me down, will you, Mr. Naruhodo? I'm counting on you in today's trial to save my life. To save the secret of my super high voltage instantaneous kinesis machine from being made public. Complexity theory? Do tell. Yes, I understand. I know what I have to do. I have to establish that the explosion 2 days ago was nothing more than an unfortunate accident. The borderline between order and chaos. It sounds like that guy from Final Fantasy should get involved. Well, I'm sure there's nothing to worry about, really. Justice will prevail. What? Who's commiserating me about me being lumbered? My commiserations, Mr. Naruhodo. You appear to have been lumbered with a most tiresome case here. Oh, it's you. Mr. Sholmes, I didn't expect to see you here. That was very mean, Runo, leaving me alone at home with Hurley. It took me at least an hour to wake him. Is it you? Herlock Sholmes? Indeed, sir. I am he, Herlock Sholmes. I've heard all about your exploits, even whilst living in Germany. Ah yes, Renst magazine is on sale in Germany too. This month's installment was sublime. Your deduction in The Adventure of the Silver Blaze was wonderful. Ah yes, a memorable case indeed. It concerned a snake, I seem to recall. Everax! It's been a while. How are you doing? No, that was the Speckled Band. Well, thank you for coming. I do appreciate your support. I'm sorry to disappoint you, my dear fellow, but I'm afraid I can't stay. Oh, I have urgent business at Madame Two Spells. You mean your waxwork job? No, the waxwork abduction, of course. Madame has engaged my services. Ah, so you're trying to get to the bottom of that ransom note, are you? The week's wages depend on it, as does the safe return of the waxwork, naturally. As such, I intend to give it my undivided attention. You do watch the VODs? That's very nice. It's good to know. That's why I continue to put in effort, even when occasionally I do stream to an empty room for a whole stream. It happens once in a while. Oh. Oh, well, never mind then. I understand. Please do sleep, by the way. Don't stay up to watch me. Right? Herlock Sholmes versus... You never... Now, we've got all kinds of opportunities for stuff to happen with him traveling to other worlds. And you know we are getting more Hildebrand very soon. Who's to say that he doesn't encounter Herlock Sholmes? It could happen. Of course, with my skills of observation and reasoning, resolving the matter will be easy as proverbial pie. I shall return forthwith. For until I solve the case, I shall have no money to afford a pie of any description. Oh, then you must absolutely give it your full attention, Hurley. Quite, Iris, quite. But life is riddled with irony, you know. I'm catching up little by little. I actually just published a video minutes before starting the stream. One of the Paradise Killer. I think I have five more Paradise Killers to go. And then, what did I stream immediately after that? I think the Portal, the Portal Remastered, Portal Revisited, whatever it was called. Oh, when you get to... Okay. It does take a while. Oh my god. There's still so much stuff that I want to do with YouTube, too. Like, I would... All I really do is put the VODs up there, but I feel like there are enough gems in... Like... scattered about. You know, I'll have an hour of stream and there'll be like 2 or 3 moments in there that I'm like, this is worth, it's maybe not worth watching a whole hour of the stream for, but I would still like people to see it. And so at some point maybe I will, if I had infinity hours, which I do, but I waste them. But if I didn't waste them, I would go through and make like supercuts of, hey, here's everything funny and interesting that happened just during this game, so I could be like, here it is in 10 minutes instead of 30 hours. Whenever I give something my full attention, I have a quite insatiable desire for a pie. One of the universe's intractable mysteries, you might say. Oh yes, quite definitely, absolutely. I totally understand. Is someone a little starstruck? I wish you the very best of luck, Professor Harebrain. Why thank you. Before I depart, Mr. Naruhodo, a word in your ear, if you please. What's this about? As you have remarkably little grounding in science, I feel I ought to inform you. As compelling as this super high voltage instantaneous kinesis hypothesis may be, a practical implementation such as was attempted by the professor at the Great Exhibition is quite impossible. But the professor said the demonstration was a success. Yes, it would appear that he fervently believes it was. I've read Professor Bunnybrain's paper about it too, Runo, and I have to say, I'm sure it can't be done. It could barely be done theoretically, let alone practically. So he's completely barking up the wrong tree. But how can an experiment that had no possibility of succeeding, in fact, succeed? That's contradictory. You know what happens when there's a contradiction? I point my finger at it. And it's that contradiction which will be at the heart of the trial, I've no doubt. What's that supposed to mean? Now, I must hurry along. I wish you the very best of luck, my dear fellow. See you later, Hurley. Well, it looks like you're on your own today, Runo. But chin up, you can do it. Everybody bid farewell and good night to Ever. Oh, what about you, Iris? No, I'm afraid I can't help. I have something I need to do. I see. Hee hee, it's going to be a big surprise for you. It's going to be a big surprise when you find out what it is. Ha. Sounds ominous. Counsel for the defense and the defendant. Court is about to be in session. Make your way into the courtroom at once. We're on our way. So am I in court with no helper then? An experiment that the laws of science say can't possibly succeed. And a scientist who's convinced that it did. That's the riddle you have to unlock here, Ryunosuke. That's the key to this case. Key to the pie to the face. Face to the book.